Imagine waking up to a world where the temperature outside can freeze water solid in minutes, where snow blankets everything you can see, and where finding your next meal could mean walking for miles through ice and wind. Now, imagine doing all of this without a heated house, without modern clothing, and without a single store to buy supplies from. 10,000 years ago, this wasn't a survival challenge. It was simply life. Every single winter, entire communities of early humans had to find a way to survive months of brutal cold, using nothing but their intelligence, their tools, and each other. So how did they actually do it? Let's find out. During the last ice age, winters weren't just cold, they were extreme. Temperatures could drop far below freezing for months at a time. Rivers and lakes froze solid. Many plants died off completely, and animals either migrated away or grew scarce. For early humans, this meant the easy abundance of summer and autumn completely disappeared. Every single decision, where to sleep, what to eat, how to stay warm, became a matter of life and death. Without proper preparation, an unprepared group could starve or freeze within just a few weeks. The very first priority was shelter. Without it, surviving even a single freezing night was nearly impossible. Caves were incredibly valuable during winter because they blocked wind and retained heat far better than being out in the open. Early humans quickly learned to seek out these natural shelters whenever they could find them. But not every group had access to a cave, so many built simple shelters instead, using branches, animal hides, and packed snow or earth to create insulated huts. Building one of these shelters took skill and patience, carefully layering materials to keep the freezing wind out. These structures were often built low to the ground and small in size, which made them easier to heat with just a small fire and several bodies huddled together. Groups often worked together, combining their strength to lift heavy hides and secure sturdy frames. Over time, small clusters of these shelters formed early winter settlements, offering safety in numbers. And once a shelter was finally complete, it represented far more than just walls and a roof. It represented survival itself. Just like in the earlier days of human survival, fire remained absolutely essential. But in winter, its role became even more critical. Fire wasn't just for cooking or scaring off predators anymore. It was the single difference between life and death from hypothermia. Groups had to carefully manage their fuel supply, gathering and storing dry wood before the heaviest snows arrived, since running out of fuel during a storm could be deadly. Every trip to gather wood meant braving the freezing cold, carrying heavy loads back through deep snow. Once inside, keeping that fire burning became a shared responsibility. Someone always had to stay awake, feeding the flames through the coldest hours of the night. Even so, an entire fire could not always burn at full strength until morning. Clever groups learned to bank their fires instead, covering hot embers with ash to keep them alive through the night, without burning through their entire wood supply. Waking up to find those embers still glowing was always a small, quiet victory. From those surviving embers, a new flame could be coaxed back to life, ready to protect the group for another freezing day. Clothing became far more sophisticated during the coldest periods of human history. Early humans learned to process animal hides into warm, wearable layers, starting with the tedious but essential work of scraping away fat and flesh from the inside of the skin. Once cleaned, hides were stretched and softened, making them more flexible and comfortable to wear against the skin. Using tools like bone needles and thread made from animal sinew, early humans began sewing separate pieces of hide together into fitted garments. This was a massive innovation. Instead of simply wrapping a loose hide around the body, tailored clothing with sleeves and leg coverings trapped heat far more effectively. The difference was dramatic. A person wrapped loosely in a single hide might still shiver in the wind, while someone wearing fitted, layered fur clothing could stay warm even during long hours outside. Simple fur-wrapped foot coverings were developed as well, protecting feet from frostbite while walking through snow and ice. With proper clothing, people could move, hunt, and work outside even in extreme cold. Without it, their winter survival options would have been extremely limited. This single innovation gave entire communities far greater freedom and safety during the harshest months of the year. Since food became scarce once winter arrived, early humans had to think ahead. During the abundant months of summer and autumn, groups worked hard to preserve extra food for the months when nothing would grow. This wasn't a casual task. It required careful planning, since a poorly stocked group could easily run out of food halfway through the coldest stretch of winter. Meat was often cut into thin strips, which helped it dry faster and preserve more effectively. It was then either dried in the sun or smoked slowly over fires, a process that could preserve it for weeks or even months without spoiling. Some groups took advantage of naturally cold environments vents as well, using snowbanks or shaded caves as an early form of refrigeration. Digging a hole into packed snow and burying meat inside kept it frozen and safe to eat throughout the winter, almost like a natural freezer. Storage areas inside caves were carefully organized, allowing groups to track exactly how much food they had left as the season went on. Every strip of dried meat, every buried cache in the snow, represented careful planning that could mean the difference between comfort and starvation. And when a family finally sat down to share a meal made from these stored supplies, it was proof that their preparation had paid off. Hunting didn't stop just because it was cold. It became more strategic instead. Animals left visible tracks in the snow, which actually made them easier to follow compared to other seasons. A skilled hunter could look at a single footprint and tell how large an animal was, how recently it had passed, and even which direction it was heading. Early humans became expert trackers, reading not just footprints, but broken branches, disturbed snow, and other subtle signs to locate prey. Because winter prey could be scarce, hunting parties rarely went out alone. Instead, they worked together, using coordinated strategies to surround and outmaneuver larger animals that a single hunter could never take down safely on their own. Communication during a hunt had to be nearly silent, relying on hand signals and shared understanding built over years of hunting together. When the moment came to strike, timing and teamwork were everything. A successful winter hunt wasn't just a lucky outcome. It could feed an entire group for days, sometimes even longer if the meat was properly preserved afterward. Carrying a large animal back to camp was exhausting work, often requiring the entire hunting party to work together. And when the group finally returned home with food, it wasn't just a meal being brought back, it was survival itself, carried on their shoulders. Perhaps the most important survival tool of all wasn't a physical object, it was cooperation. Winter made it nearly impossible for any single person to survive completely alone. The very old and the very young were especially vulnerable to the cold, and caring for them became a shared responsibility across the entire group. Someone always had to keep watch through the night, making sure the fire never went out completely and that no danger approached while everyone else slept. Children were kept close to adults at all times, both for warmth and for safety, since even a short separation in freezing temperatures could be dangerous. Food was shared carefully among the group, even when supplies were limited, because a hungry member today could become a burden the group could not afford tomorrow. Everyone had a role to play. Some tended the fire, others repaired clothing or prepared food, and everyone contributed to the group's survival in their own way. When someone fell ill, the group didn't abandon them. Instead, they were cared for, wrapped in extra furs, and given whatever comfort the group could provide. This deep reliance on each other during the harshest months likely strengthened social bonds and cooperation skills that would go on to shape human societies for thousands of years to come. In many ways, surviving the winter wasn't just about outlasting the cold, it was about learning to trust and depend on one another completely. The extreme demands of winter also pushed early humans to innovate faster than ever before. Every single tool developed during this period served a very real, very urgent purpose. Bone needles, fitted clothing, insulated shelters, food preservation techniques, and coordinated hunting strategies were not accidents. They were direct responses to a brutal environment that punished anyone who failed to adapt quickly enough. Knowledge like this didn't stay with just one person. It was carefully passed down, often demonstrated hands-on to younger members of the group, ensuring that critical survival skills would not be lost when an older generation eventually passed away. Some researchers believe that these repeated, brutal winters across thousands of years played a major role in accelerating human intelligence, planning skills, and technological development compared to other regions with milder, more forgiving climates. Facing the same deadly challenge year after year forced early humans to think ahead in ways that easier environments simply didn't demand. Shelters became more refined with each passing generation. Simple cave paintings and marks may have even served as an early form of planning or record-keeping, helping groups track resources, seasons, or important events. Over time, entire communities became noticeably more organized and better prepared, with clear improvements in their tools, their homes, and their strategies for survival. What began as desperate improvisation during a single freezing winter gradually transformed into structured knowledge, carried forward and refined by generation after generation of early humans determined not just to survive, but to thrive. The survival skills developed during these harsh ancient winters didn't just help one generation get through a single cold season. They became part of the foundation of human culture itself. Shelter building, clothing making, food preservation, cooperative living, and tool-making all trace back to these desperate, freezing months faced by our ancestors. Every time you put on a warm jacket, store food in a freezer, or rely on your community during a hard time, you're carrying forward a survival strategy that is quite literally 10,000 years old. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.